Friends, fans, and fine folk, grab your drinks and snacks and come on down to the campfire for this short rest with me and my friend Cucumber! I'll just keep going till I've worked out the sound effect. Let's make sure the sound is working. There you go. How you going, Cucumber?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm doing great.
I'm a sleepy full boy, but I'm good.
I am also sleepy. Yeah, I'm not sleepy because of Thanksgiving. I'm sleepy because it's 9 o'clock in the morning, and I do not do well with mornings. For some reason, I set all of my streams to start at 9 o'clock in the morning because New Zealand time zones. This is a good time for all of my audience. But hey, it forces me to get out of bed, I guess. How was Thanksgiving? Did you
it's good.
Yeah,
No, it's great. I had it was so much starch. So I have celiac disease. So usually if I go to somebody's house, I can't have anything bready. But most of the people that I go to visit also have celiac disease. So it's the one day I just stock up on stuffings of all various types, and I am made of sugar now. It's
excellent.
delightful.
Yeah, and having some post-food comas.
Mm-hmm.
It's great to have you here. I've been wanting to have you on for a while, and I'm glad that it finally worked out. So welcome to Short Rest. We're since it's called Short Rest, we are, I guess, on a mission. We're on some sort of a quest, and I guess we need to come up with what that is. What we needing a rest from?
Are
we slaying some
probably
sort of giant Thanksgiving dragon turkey, or are we?
Just average run-of-the-mill socializing, I think. I need a month in the woods. That's what I need.
Yeah, just run-of-the-mill life getting in the way. Too much of the social battery being drained, and we need a short rest from all of that. What are we eating and drinking on this short rest, both in the fiction of it and in the IRL? I've just got water, as normal. You got any?
Well, let's see.
Any drink or food of snacks?
Not to make it a brain or anything, but I'm pounding some Celsius because I'm a sleepy boy, and yeah, I mean, if imaginary wise, I would be having a very nice, crisp, tart dry cider. That is my jam. It's so good. I hate how like all the ciders out here, unless I'm hunting for a good one, are just syrupy sweet. It makes me so sad and so angry.
And where is out here? Whereabouts are you based?
Los Angeles area. Our studio's here in Signal Hill, which is like a weird city inside of Long Beach.
Right.
A little, yeah.
I'll have to drop by next time I'm in LA.
Please do. More than welcome.
Does Mr. Cucumber know Mr. Randy Feltface? I met him on happenstance, maybe.
I went to see a show. I love him. I invited him to come and play with us, and he didn't even leave me on red. I think I'm just buried in his inbox somewhere because I couldn't figure out how to get a hold of him. So I just sounded like a crazy fan, like, "Hey, Mr. Feltface, you want to play D&D with us?" And it didn't really didn't pan out.
I bet.
But hey,
I bet it would. I know one of my mods knows Randy, so maybe I could ask her to get in touch. Yeah, there she is. Hey, Joe. Maybe make an introduction.
I would love that, because he went and hung out with a friend of mine who's Toilet Paper, and I've never been more jealous in my life. Like I've known Toilet for a long time, and I was just like, yeah, he's killing it out there. And then I saw that he did like a whole podcasty thing with Randy. I'm like, damn it! I was so mad, just so upset.
All right, I'll put my mod in touch with you and then see if we can set that up, because that'd be great to see. Great to see Randy
please.
playing D&D, I'm sure. Yeah. I know the feeling though, like when you see somebody that you're like, oh, we could maybe collab, and that'd be great, and then you message them, and then they're just like, there's nothing. I was like, oh,
yeah.
I've done that a couple times. Where I'm like, hey, you want to do this thing, or you want to do this thing, or I do TTRPGs, and I'm pretty well known in the industry, so maybe we could and then there's just nothing, and you're like, oh, now I just feel like a fan. Now I just feel like a crazy fan that's been left unread.
My favorite exchange like that, I was on back in the olden days when it was still Twitter. I sent him Anthony Rapp was looking to like join a D&D game, and like, we got you, come and play with some felted friends. And his response was, what, pray tell, is a felted friend? And then I sent him like a clip of our show. Dead silence. And we had like a message back and forth. It's like, yeah, I'll watch it for a few minutes and then I'll see, and then like nothing ever again. He's
Oh
very
wow.
nice, by the way. This isn't a shot at him, but I'm like, I get it. If it's not your jam, it's not your jam. There's no judgment. I just thought it was really funny.
Man, I just can't imagine watching what you do and then going, no, no thanks.
Because I think he wanted to get into like a normal,
Just a-
legitimate D&D game,
just a
and we're
normal
just all
D&D.
dick jokes and screaming. So I get it.
He's just like, so is it like a D&D Muppets? What am I don't know. I'm just gonna no, I'm just gonna ignore.
It's a good safety tool. I'm proud of him. He made the right choice.
He made the right choice. Yeah, if it's not for him, it's not for him, and it's a good thing he didn't turn up. So for anyone who's tuning in from my community here and doesn't know who you are and what you're from, give us a wee blurb about yourself, Cucumber.
Oh, certainly. Well, my name is Cucumber, and yeah, I've been doing this. We have a wow, my brain's broken. D&D. We play D&D on Wednesday nights, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. It's called Perception Check. Is our show. We've been doing it for 6 years. We started in a garage, our friend's garage, and then we've been floating on ever since. Now we've got a studio space, and we've expanded our content to do other tabletop shows, board game shows, scripted stuff, all kinds of stuff. Basically, we're here to play, and we invite all of our talented and fun and delightful friends to come and play with us. And yeah, we're always growing, always changing. But Wednesday's show is like
has Perception Check been like the flagship from the beginning? Then that's been
Yes.
that's yeah, and
yeah, that's
you
what
said,
got us all together.
and you said it started 6 years ago.
Yeah, a little
Damn.
over now, I think. Yeah, you're telling me.
That's a long run, because most of my guests I find that I talk to these days that are doing D&D content are like, oh, we got to start during the pandemic because had nothing else to do. We were like, oh, maybe we should play some D&D, or maybe we should start up. And so many people started podcasts and things during the pandemic, and then ended up taking off in a big way. So yeah, amazing
we got to be
that you started back then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was 2017, I think, because a bunch of us were doing shows at Disney, and we all left Disney at the same time.
All right.
And we're like, oh, we need to keep our skills sharp, and also we want to play some games, and we just mushed them all together, because people don't show up if you're like, let's play a game. But if you tell all of your theater kid friends that, oh, it's a show,
there's
they
an
show
audience
up every time. It's great.
You just
awesome.
Yeah, if you want a bunch of theater nerds to turn up, you just need to hire one guy to come and watch as an audience. Be like, hey, technically we've got an audience, so you've got to turn up. The show must go on, and then they'll turn up regardless. So you started off with whose garage was it? It was just somebody's
Ryan's. He's our GM on Wednesdays.
Ryan's garage, and he was just like, was he kind of the one pushing for the whole thing, or were you all
it was
on
me.
board? That was you?
It was definitely me. Yeah. So, because like I had wanted to learn D&D and play D&D. So the people who ended up starting the studio were the same people that I initially started playing with. Right. And we got maybe 2 sessions in. It was 4th ed. It was before 5th came out.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot for people to figure out. And then we did, and then it just fell off. Nobody showed up. And then we stopped doing our shows. And I was like, okay, here's the deal. All right, we're going to do a show. It's got Felted Friends. It's got comedy. It's got D&D. So that way it's like we all kind of get to scratch our itches at the same time and show off the talents that we're actually good at all at the same time. And it's been fun.
So how long have you known Ryan and the rest of the Felted Friends?
Oof, I've known Ryan since 2001, I think. Ooh. And then I was working with Chunk for almost 20 years now. I've known him since 2005, I think.
Wow, at Disney?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird to think about the early aughts and be like, man, that's a long time ago now.
Can I address one of the questions in the chat? It's not one of the tippy ones. It's one from Merc. Hey, Merc-Rookie. So no, technically we did not start out with Hyper RPG. We did we did a run with them for about a year, or just almost exactly a year. But we pitched the show to them, and then they didn't pick it up immediately. So we started just doing it anyway in Ryan's garage. And then they tuned in. We're like, oh, looks like you guys figured it out. Yeah, now come on the channel. We're like, okay, great. And then we just kept doing it when our run was up over there.
Here's the pitch, and we're doing it already. so there's here's the risk and reward already worked out.
Yeah. I got very impatient, basically. I was like, well, if they're not going to take us, we're just going to do it. So, but I will say Hyper played an instrumental part in people discovering us and finding us, because they were a much larger established channel, and we got to mess around on there, and some people followed us over. which was lovely. Yeah,
That's
super
basically
lucky
that's basically my entire business model. People have discovered me through Viva la Dirt League, and then they're like, "Oh, this guy does Dungeons and Dragons pretty well. Let me follow him on other stuff too."
Yeah.
So you and Chunk and Ryan and the gang have been friends for a while. You've been playing D&D since 4th edition.
Yes,
was?
But, I mean, not consistently.
First to kind of get into it.
I was the first one. I was the first GM boy, and I couldn't figure it out. Like, I was learning as we were going, right? You know, first time GM stuff. Like, everyone sit. Here are the rules. What are the turn actions? Like, it just. And it was so crunchy. 4th edition was just like, it was like you were reading a video game program. Like, oh, this sucks.
I've heard, yeah.
My take on it. I'm sure people love it.
Yours and many people's take on it. Yeah. I haven't played it yet myself. Ages ago, probably like nearing a year and a half or 2 years ago, one of my fans sent me 4th edition, which is sitting right here, ready to read at some point. And she's like, "Hey, that's a loaner, and I want it back at some point." And every so often, she'll pop in and be like, "There's no rush, but like, have you actually read it yet?" And I'm like, "I'll get around to it." So I will eventually get around to it because I am fascinated to know like the earlier editions because I started with 5th, not long after 5th started. But I've heard good things and bad things about 4th edition. Mostly bad as a system as a whole, but like I hear that the things like combat mechanics worked pretty well. Like it was mostly a combat game. There wasn't as much of the role play and exploration and social interactions and things. And so the monster stat blocks are much more enjoyable and interesting than 5th edition monster stat blocks, and once per combat features that everybody could have and things like that. So I'm interested to read it and learn.
I liked the cards too. That the starter kit came with a bunch of like monster cards and spell cards, so it was a little more easy at a glance to like look at what you were doing and figuring out what you need to know. Yeah, which I enjoy.
And then the sort of interest for it waned, and people started, life getting in their way, things like that. So it was your decision to go like, let's put together a Felt Friends D&D, make it a thing, and you went straight to 5th edition at that point.
Yeah, because by then it was just coming out, and it was like, well, strike while the iron's hot, do the thing, and it was also, I feel like 5th is such an easier system to just jump into, and I am also a very math. I don't like math. I don't like doing it. So I'm very role play heavy. I like, I just like joking with the fellow players, having a good time. Yeah. And when combat happens, I just kind of wait for it to be over. I just clench and breathe.
just hold your breath and wait, and combat will be over soon. It's very interesting because I was listening to a podcast, Three Black Halflings. I was listening to that yesterday, and they mentioned something on that about they're all terrible at maths and blah blah blah, rolling maths, and one of them went so far as to say, I don't know any TTRPG people who enjoy maths, and actors are all bad at maths. And I was like, you're making a lot of generalizations, and I'm sitting here with both an acting degree and a maths degree. And I fucking love numbers. I fucking love maths. I'm perfectly fine with all of that shit. I love the balance of the game. I think it's one of the things my audience have pointed out before. They're like, if you've got a D&D, if you've got an acting degree for the story side of things, and you've got a maths degree for the crunch side of things, you've basically got a D&D degree. I was like, I think I do. And I think that's one of the reasons that I enjoy the homebrew of like tables and stuff, because I know how to balance things. I understand the fundamental numbers behind all of the encounters, and I know like adding an extra thing is not just a simple like adding an extra monster. It's changing more than, it's not a linear progression. Like as soon as you double the number of monsters they're fighting, it more than doubles the difficulty of the fight because of action economy and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, I learned challenge ratings the hard way when I almost killed everyone I was playing with. I'm so sorry.
Yes.
I also remember.
Yeah, some people understand the math behind it. Some people just understand it through trial and error, going, "Whoops, that was a TPK."
Too much. I remember my friendly local game store guy was trying to talk me out of buying 4th edition like it was a cursed object, and it was my favorite, one of my favorite memories, because I was in there. It's a tiny little place. It's called the Dice House in Fullerton. They've moved since then. His name was Abe. He's great. I haven't been in that shop in like 10 years, but I remember him because he was awesome.
Remember his name?
No, he was awesome. His name's Abe. And then he's like, are you sure? Because the new one's coming out. People don't really like this one. I'm like, no, look, I want to learn it. I want to play it. And look, they're like discounted. It's like $5 for a bunch of books. Why not? And then he's like, okay. And so I bought them.
He's like, there's a reason it's on discount.
So he emailed me like a bunch of modules and stuff, like stuff to run. Just like he took time out of his day after I got home, and he sent me it was like bullywugs or toads or something like that. I forget the theming, but it was super fun. And I was like, oh, hey. If anyone goes to Dice House and if Abe's still working there, you tell him Cucumber says hi. He won't recognize the name, but I appreciate him.
He won't know who the hell you're talking about, but you explain it and you still won't understand. I love guys like that are just like, you can tell that they are passionate about their work to the point of like they're going above and beyond what's expected. Not just somebody who goes like, ring up whatever, but there's like he's working at this gaming shop because they love gaming and they're happy to explain things and get to know you and what you want. I've got a gaming shop near me that's run by a friend of mine that's in a similar way. If somebody asks him for a recommendation, because they walk in and he's got like 900 board games to play, and they'll be like, what do you want to play? And he'll be like, all right, what sort of game are you into? What kind of stories do you like to tell? And blah blah blah. And he'll give some suggestions that are more tailored to them.
That's so good.
Good people.
I like that.
The world has some good people. You gotta remember. So you got your start with the 5th edition. At that point, you started with the perception check. Did you have the name perception check right from the beginning?
Yeah, that was the initial name of our whole channel too. So because that was the only thing we were doing, so we were just perception check, and this show is also perception check, and everything was just perception check. And then when we started adding more shows, it got confusing. So then we changed the channel to Perception Studio.
What was the reasoning behind perception check? Who came up with the name?
Oh, we just sat in a room for a while and just was like, what about this? What about this? I wish I remembered the rejects because they were all terrible. And we landed on one that was also terrible for different reasons, mostly branding, because perception check doesn't fit on any handle. So we ended up being like Percept Check and then Percept Studio, and we made the change. It's so, it makes me so mad.
Yeah, not some great SEO, right?
I will also say I might have been like initial concept idea boy, but I am probably the biggest idiot of the group. So it's like I needed my friends to do like the tech stuff and the planning stuff and the running the show stuff and lighting and cameras and all that, because I don't.
Hey, I'm the ideas man, not the do it.
Yeah,
man.
That's right. I show up and I say funny words and then I run away.
Yeah, I had the same thing when I was starting out, like branching out my own and looking at the success I was getting through the Viva La Dirt League stuff and going, could I do this for a living? And then kind of like having to take that leap. It became about right as I was finishing my maths degree, so I was like straddling, doing the splits across 2 different trains, and I was like, I really got to commit to one of these trains because it's coming up to a bend. I gotta decide, am I going down the creative career again, like I did with acting, and then gave up when I couldn't make it work as a living, or do I try and get like a quote unquote real job and do something with accountancy or maths or some shit? And I was like, nah, let's commit to it. And I went for the D&D one, and I was like, all right, what do I call myself? And I thought about the branding opportunities and things. I looked at pretty much how there's not a single D&D dice-related pun that hasn't been used in some capacity. And there's a million different names with critical in them, or dice, or all of these. I was like, all right, let's just go with my name, Robert Hartley GM, because then people are like, who's that guy from that Robert Hartley GM? They know who I am.
That's very smart.
Yeah, and then I can shorten it to RHGM, and it's just Robert Hartley GM on all of the platforms and all of that.
We were also very new to Twitch when we started too, so like we didn't know, like we were figuring everything out all at the same time. Like it's
funny
journey.
You say about the name reject though, because quite often I'll have short rest guests on and I'll ask them, where did you get your name from? Do you remember what other options that you might have been and stuff? And most of the time they're like, yeah, we almost called ourselves, and then they'll say like a name for something that also now exists, and they're like, yeah, so somebody else eventually took that. And it's like, yeah, there's just so few options for like making it D&D related. I remember one time going through years ago, I went through all the podcasts just to see if I could find all of the ones that were puns on Dungeons and Dragons, and there was like Dungeons and Flagons, Drunkards and Dragons, Dungeons and Daddies, There was just like there was like 100 of them. That was like, yeah, everybody tries. You gotta find that one thing that you gotta try and stick out with. So perception check seems to have worked for you though. Like it's other than the naming on handles, that being a problem. What was you? So you went with perception check, and then what was the next thing that eventually started, like outside of the flagship, as it were? What was the project?
They started doing my manager Danny started a D&D show that was a little more grounded, kind of like the alternate answer to perception check. So we did a show called Salen's Legacy, which was just like a homebrew world, lots of stuff. They did like 108 episodes in season 1, and then they did a season 2 for like a year.
Wow.
And now Tuesdays
that was No Filter Friends?
I believe so. I think there might have been a one shot or two when people couldn't show up, and we just a couple like throwaway silly episodes. Yeah. But yeah, that was all humans. A little heavier. We got some really strong role play in there, and it was a good time.
Nice. Yeah. Was it well received though? People like, no, that's not what we signed up for.
It was well received. I think it ended up going a little too long for its britches because it was one campaign that lasted that long, and it was just kind of near the end. Everyone was just kind of itching to wrap it up, and it was hard for people to jump in because they're like, "Oh, great, this show seems fun. Like, where should I start?" They're like, 87 episodes ago, and they're like, "Oh."
That's one of the biggest problems with this industry is like the all of the actual plays have the same problem. Like people getting into it are like, "Oh, I'm just getting into Critical Role. Where would you recommend I start?" And I'm like, whew, that's a question. Like how it really depends on how long you got. If you got 4 hours a week to watch something, then absolutely. It's the same with any actual play. Even Dimension 20, which is much more much shorter form content. The Viva La Dirt League episodes that I run are half-hour episodes, so they're designed to be like bingeable. They're focused on comedy. They're much more like a half-hour sitcom on a TV show. But it's still, we're 160 episodes into it now, so 160 half-hour episodes is still a hell of a lot of commitment to try and onboard.
Oh yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about that stuff ourselves as well, like making recap videos that kind of just summarize entire arcs of the campaign, so that you can watch that 8-minute video and then skip 20 episodes of content. So things like that, you got to be aware of. It's one of the things that going forwards, they're saying, like, I think any future campaigns that we do after we wrap up this flagship one is going to be like designed to be shorter ones, not like level 1 to 20.
Yeah, that's kind of what we landed on too. So now Tuesday nights, that used to be that show, are every month we rotate systems, GMs, and players as much as we can, so we can try out new stuff and give everyone a chance to shine, that kind of thing. And it's been really fun. And then if something is like a hit and people really like it, we'll do a season 2 like next year. Or we'll do like a pre-record for Patreon and stuff like that. We found ways to do what we want.
Yeah, you can test them, find the ones that are really people are responding to, and then go, let's let's expand that those characters or that world, or as you say, like a season 2 sort of thing.
We did a die campaign, and that thing hit like a hammer. It was so good.
Right.
Oh gosh, that game is so fun.
That is very quickly running up the ranks in my priority list. I've got like a list on my phone of like all of the TTRPGs that I've played, all the ones that I want to play. And Die was on there when I heard about it the first time. I was like, oh, that sounds interesting. And then the more I hear about it from everybody, the more it's popping up in the ranks, being like, everybody's really raving about Die. You should really check it out. So, yeah, I'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I went in blind. I didn't know it was based on a comic series or anything like that. I had to be told about it. And our friend was super passionate about it. He's like, hey, can I run this? We're like, yes, you can. Please do. Yeah.
Excellent. So, how many people were involved in Perception Check early days? Like, how many people did you get involved?
Let's see. Initially, we had Ryan as our GM. It was me and Chunk, and then I think Amber played with us. And a little while after that, Willow started playing with us, and a little after that, we had Connie. And oh my gosh, it's a long time ago.
People just started rolling in naturally.
Yeah.
Were they all
it was
people
like,
you worked with?
Who wants? Yeah. Usually people we'd worked with on gigs or stuff like that. Like people we know would be able to come in and have a good time, have a laugh with it, and be uncomfortably cramped in a garage for 3 hours, getting bitten by mosquitoes, that kind of thing. So like it takes a certain type of person, I think, to put up with us for that long, and. Yeah, it all worked out. Most of those folks will still come and play with us most of the time.
Yeah, nice. And was there ever a point you got to like a new project, a new gaming system or something, and like wanted to audition people for the role to be like make sure that their chemistry is good, or Is there like a non-filmed session 0 or anything like that?
We've started doing session zeros a little more regularly now, but oftentimes I'm the one who's going around picking folks because I'm like, oh, those two would play really well together,
Right,
and like 90% of the time it works out, and then when it doesn't, you find the next thing that does work out for them, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've never had any like horrific incidents or anything like that. It's all been really chill. Everyone's great, and
yeah. I had a lot of fun with the first time that I met you. Mutual friend Dead Aussie Gamer got in touch and was like, "Hey, you want to work with these guys? Blah blah blah. I'm doing this thing." And he said that we were going to be playing a board game together, so it wasn't a D&D. It wasn't a TTRPG, but we were playing a new version of the Red Dragon Inn. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
I have the 1, 2, and then I also have Pub Crawl. Oh yeah, duh, hi. I just caught up my brain. Yes.
What were you? Sorry, what were you catching up on? I think I'm not caught up.
Oh, wait a minute. Because we played, right?
You and I have played together for Red Dragon Inn. Yeah, that was when the first time that I met you. Was that was under the Perception Studio banner? I can't remember now.
I think that was through Dead Aussie Gamer somehow. He like gathered us, but we built the show, so like we did all the overlay stuff and everything. And,
yeah. I think he was kind of like running the game, but it was for you guys for the studio. It's a long time ago now. I don't remember. But it was a lot of fun, and I had a hell of a lot of fun watching to play with you. And I remember meeting you, Cucumber, and being like right before the the going live section when we were in the sort of green room area, like in the Zoom call or whatever. And warning for curse words coming if you're listening with kids or without headphones on. I remember that one of the first things meeting you was like you right before we went live, you asked Dag like, what rating is this, and he goes soft M. Sort of PG-13, but like the odd swear words are fine. I understand that I'm usually playing with Australians, so like saying no swearing is like cutting off an arm. And then you as beautiful and sweet as you are, you went, okay, I better get all this out then now, and you just let off this string of fucking shit, fuck. You just let out this diatribe of just all of the language that you could, so that you could like get it out of your system before we went live PG-13. And it was something else to see such a sweet felted friend just letting loose this string of vitriol. And I was like, okay.
What I'm built for, unfortunately. I'm so good. Oh, lots of fun.
And then since then, we've had the opportunity to play together in other things too. We Felted Filth, yes. We had the opportunity to play together on Sarah's Table at Gen Con this year. That was a lot of fun as well. Being able to play alongside you for, what was that one? Skeleton Adventurers. Where we had to be undead attacking a town, and you were a little, at one point you were a flower girl throwing petrol onto a church. Man, it's fun. Perception Studio, a lot of fun, everybody. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do so. So then you at what point did you move from the garage? At what point did you get to a point where you're like, let's actually get a studio?
I think we're on year 3 or 4 at the studio now? Question mark? I don't have a good memory for time, but
before or after pandemic?
Right before. So we had just started doing like finishing touches 1.0. Like we hung the last cabinet, and that's when lockdown happened. We were like in the building.
You're like, right, we're ready for this get together we're ready for the studio to be finally finished so that we can all get together on the regular and be within close proximity of each other on the regular. And then they're like,
and I had to Zoom from home, and it was rough. It was so bad. But it was also the busiest we ever were, because like then we started kind of strategizing. We're like, okay, one of us gets to go to the studio and run everything from like that hub. Everyone else will call in from home.
Yeah.
And so we ended up doing like 10 shows a week during that time because we had nothing else to do. There was a lot of day drinking involved, but other than that, it was pretty fun.
For those listening on podcast, you won't be able to see this, but I'm going to just readjust Cucumber's screen here just to show you what is being cropped out so that you can see all of the majesty and wonder that is the studio behind him. Isn't this incredible? Look at this. And look how tiny he is.
I'm a little boy. I'm a little guy. I'm just a little guy.
He's just a little guy. Look at this incredible background you've got.
Oh, it's cropped out, but there's a crocheted me up on that wall over there, like a little tiny one.
From a fan or a commission job?
Yeah, it was from Cam Crochets. She lives in Denmark, and she mailed that to us. And she also made us a couple of wizard hats. Oh wait, no, the wizard hats were from somebody else from TikTok. Oh no, I'm a terrible person. Ah, God, who was that? I don't remember her name. Whoopsie.
How so where did all of this amazing stuff come from? The Batman and the R2D2 and all this.
Some of the stuff is kind of on loan from friends. So we have a friend named Will. We used to have a show called Cinephilia, which was like a movie talk show with Art and Will, and that Batman was his.
Studio banner.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
And so they did just like a weekly talk show about movies because they're the local cinephiles, and so they talked about that. But yeah, that Batman is his. It's got an interchangeable like magnet hand and head, so you can swap those out. Cool. That Joker belongs to my manager. It was a gift. It was like some famous doll company did a rare DC run, and then they did a Joker, and that happened. And
there's a lot of
the stuff. Like some of the stuff is from our childhoods though too. Like the Talk Boy is a legit Talk Boy that I think was Ryan's.
Oh, wow.
Down there. Somewhere there's that robot. It was the 2XL up there. People get excited about that. We don't really remember it, but I guess people are like, "Oh my God, I remember that toy." No idea.
I don't know that one myself. It works so well, like as a visual background. Like was it that you had the toys and then you put the shelves in the right places for them, or did you just chuck in some shelves willy nilly and then was like, "This is a perfect fit for this shelf"?
Ryan and Art kind of figured out the shelving situation, and the painting of the wall was done while I was somewhere else on vacation, I think. So I came back, I was like, wow, it's so pretty, and I didn't help at all. But like what's on the shelves has changed out a bunch. There used to be a lot more stuff was on them, but they were a lot smaller, so they never showed up or read as anything.
Right.
Because most of my collectibles are tiny, like
that's one
just
of the
little tiny
that's
things.
one of the problems I've got here, because like I've got these display cabinets behind me, and I've got thousands of minis, but most of these ones are just humanoid minis, so you just can't read any of them, and it takes forever for me to find them. So I've been thinking like I should really take all of the ones that you can't really see, all the smaller ones, humanoids and beasts and stuff, and just put them in like a kit that I can actually sort through with drawers and stuff. And then just put the big ones like these dragons, like actually just space them out, give them each room to actually breathe, as it were, and so that you can see what's going on behind me. So I'll get around to that eventually, maybe in 3 years. when it becomes a priority. It's usually how things go. I've got so many things on my to-do list, I'm like, I'll get around to it.
And opposite me, you can't see it now, but when we do lots of in-studio stuff, we have a whole tavern set on the other side of the room. I'd show you, but I'm not two people, so I'm going to stay put. But it's real pretty. If you ever get a chance to watch like later episodes of Silence Legacy, it was almost exclusively in that tavern.
Yeah, I've seen the set before. It looks incredible. We just got our own tavern set. The Viva La Dirt League guys just finished a studio that they kickstarted a while back, and they've got a tavern set that's purpose made for filming, and it's incredible to play D&D in that space and to look around and you're in like a medieval tavern playing D&D. It's incredible stuff.
That's so awesome. Ours is like a wall and a corner. It's we can't make it super useful, but it's coming along. It needs another facelift, I think. Art was talking about that.
So you mentioned before you had so many different like other projects that are under the Perception Studio banner, including this weekly chat about cinema. Is there like an umbrella theme to Perception Studio that like if somebody pitches a new thing, you're like, that doesn't really fit with our branding, or is it just like as long as it's something to do with having fun?
I think it's the second one. Yeah. We've kind of prided ourselves on being a hub of like, if our friends want to try something, we're gonna go for it, and we're gonna give it our best shot. And in more recent times, we've had more of that time to do that because we don't have as many ongoing things. So, for instance, next month, January, 2 months from now, in January, we're gonna start doing. We have a show called Trasherpiece Theater that we do every now and then, where we would read old radio plays and people could tip to have us do accents or impersonations, stuff like that, as we go.
Yeah, I've seen one of those.
But we're going to start doing it again. But our friend Brooke, who's an excellent GM, Brooke Thornton, she's going to run one that is all Shakespeare. So we're going to do a day of rehearsal and then do a day of Shakespeare. We're all going to be on book, but we're going to have a little bit more like there will be blocking, and we'll probably do the fights and stuff like that to have a lot more fun with it.
Like Felted Friends doing Shakespeare?
Yeah, I should be. I'm at least jumping into the first one. We'll see how it goes and then decide from there. But yeah. So I think the first one we're doing is Much Ado About Nothing in January, but she's already blocked out the whole year, and she was super excited about it. She's like, "Hey, I don't mean to bother you about this." Like, no, please, if you want to do a show, come do a show. Thank you. Yes, please, and thank you.
That's incredible. That sounds a lot of fun. I think I'll have to check in on that one in January.
Yeah.
So it seems hectic to have like just that open door to be like, let's try any project. What's sort of the management of Perception Studio? Is there a hierarchy of somebody's in charge of ultimate decisions, the person who has the final say, or is it entirely just like a democracy of everybody just kind of votes?
It's very democratic in that aspect. It's kind of like, do we have the time or the energy? Because most of us also have other jobs and other responsibilities, which is why we're down to 3 regular shows right now.
Right.
Because we have Welcome Party, which is one that we host. That one's not technically ours, I think. I don't remember. I'm not on that one. And then but then we have our Tuesday show, which is our rotating tabletop RPG, and then we have our Wednesday show, which is ongoing. But yeah, so it's like we'll check in with each other. It's like, hey, somebody wants to do this. When can we make it work? We do the same thing for pre-records and stuff like that, for being like, hey, like, are we all available? Can we try this? The answer is usually yes. It's just when can we do it?
Yeah.
And then we just kind of figure out calendars. We have like a behind-the-scenes Discord where we like, we'll tag people.
Right. Yeah.
I'm usually the one looking for players and figuring out who's going where and when.
Who is Perception Studio? Who is like the full-time actual Perception Studio people, and who are just guest stars? Sort of.
So the core nuggets are going to be that'll be my manager Danny, Art, and Ryan. Those 3 are the company, and then everybody else is very, very generous with their time.
And is Art one of the other Filtered Friends' manager?
Yes, he's Chunk's manager.
He's Chunk's manager, right. Art, Denny, and Ryan are the 3 core Perception Studios. The make-up Perception Studio. Excellent.
Yeah.
And like somebody in the chat was asking, was Chunk, are they still sick? Was Chunk sick recently?
Chunk had work the other night. On Wednesday night, he wasn't in the show because he had another thing to do.
Busy. Life gets
that happens also all the time.
It
does.
There's nothing TTRPG people know more than scheduling conflicts.
One of our core rules kind of at the studio, something we always tell each other, and like when people are just like, oh, like, I'm so sorry, I got a gig, I can't be there, we're like, make your money. Go make your money. Yeah, like, we're not mad. Congratulations. Go get paid. Yeah. So, yeah, it's nice to have like a large enough like network of folks where it's like, hey, somebody can't show up, great, we'll plug someone in, or like if the GM's cool running it with one fewer players, less player. Yeah. Yeah,
one fewer. Fewer is correct. Basically, if it's a countable thing. I was trying to run somebody through this grammar the other day, and they were like, well, what's the difference? And I was like, if you really want to know. I'm a grammar nerd. So you mentioned that you worked at Disney before. Was that all Ryan, you and Art all worked at Disney, or?
No, Art, myself, Amber, who doesn't do as much with the channel anymore, but she was a big part of it for a long time, and Andrew, who is Brian's manager. We all worked together there for like about 20 years or so, right. And then give or take, depending on who you were. And then we some of the people who come and play with us also did Disney stuff.
And what were you doing at Disney?
Shows, entertainment. We did Playhouse Disney, Disney Junior, Jedi Show. Not all of us did Jedi Show. I'm going through mine. I did Jedi Show. I did the other Jedi Show, special events, anything articulated, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, excellent. Would you enjoy it?
Oh yeah, loved the job. And then we got screwed.
How did you get involved with the Disney job?
Auditioned. They were looking for performers of a very specific quality, and followed through on that. And yeah.
Nice. And what gave you the particular skills they were looking for? Where did you start out before that? Did you get your start at Disney?
Yeah, first job. summer job of my junior year of high school. So I was working all through my senior year. I had my last two periods off so that I could go do work because I had two back-to-back parades immediately after. So I was a terrible student, but I was a real good performer.
Yeah.
I'm not smart, but boy, am I fun, I guess.
Charismatic. Charming. Yeah, charming cucumber.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got the good charisma for being a performer. You got a face for TV, but not a brain for studies.
No.
unique set of skills.
I'm really smart when I care about it. That's my problem.
Right,
I can't make myself try when it's something I don't care about.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just tripled down on entertainment things. I'm like, okay, if I don't have this kind of entertainment job, I'll have this kind of entertainment job. And good. Ooh.
And I know that your manager Danny, he also does other performative work as well, right? Voice acting.
Yeah, he does a lot of audiobook stuff. He just got a big one recently. He's doing Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. He's playing the character of Hunt.
Nice.
Who is like the lead. He's like the Edward Cullen of that world, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a broody fallen angel detective boy, and it's very grumps. It's very cute.
Yeah, very exciting. I have I have a desire and an interest in voice acting. I've done an audiobook myself as well, or currently doing one, I suppose, because I've got pickups to do. But the unfortunate thing is where I have my house here in Auckland. My neighbours despise all things nature, and so I'm surrounded on all sides by people who every moment of the day, if I'm quiet, you might even be able to hear them. Maybe the mic's cutting it out. But there's every moment of the day doing lawn mowing and weed whacking and hedge trimming and sometimes just running generators just for the sake of it, I think. Just everything that they could do. Thankfully, no boy races. Oh, actually, not none. There is my street is a thoroughfare for boy races sometimes. So it's just like they I think they have a rotating roster of when I'm streaming, and then they just take it in turns to do some sort of noisy thing outside, making it very, very impossible for me to do any of my voice acting recording from my house.
Yeah, when my manager was starting, the studio is right next to an airport in Long Beach, like right up against it. So before he got a booth, he had to stop every 3 seconds for a plane. And not like the big commercial ones weren't the problem. It's the little teeny
little ones with the biplanes.
The ones that people learn on. They're so ferociously loud, and they cut through steel, man. That sound is just the worst.
Yeah, I was genuinely thinking about like just rearranging my office and taking like a huge chunk out of my my wardrobe, all of the stuff, the board games and things, finding a different place for them and just putting in soundproof and just locking myself in a teeny wardrobe like this wide and just doing it from in there maybe.
Yeah. That's about where he started. It was in a closet in a garage. So like coats on one side, carpet tiles underneath, and just anything else squishy that he could find. It was on a Blue Yeti, on a Toshiba laptop, and he had to put an ice pack under the laptop so that it didn't overheat and crash as he was recording. It was the worst.
The things we do. I love the juxtaposition of what people expect. People who don't know the first thing about like performing and expect the glamour of it because they see how beautiful and glamorous the end product is, and then they see what went into it, and it's like, oh, that was the work of one guy working way too hard and not sleeping enough, and managed to put all of this together, and yeah. So you've managed to put together the studio. Is that because of the original sort of success of Perception Check? Did it take off immediately, or did it take some like real grinding to get people interested?
It took some grinding, and again, like I mentioned at Hyper RPG before, like without the time that we spent there, I think we wouldn't have caught our audience as quickly as we did. And they're super interactive. Everyone's been great, and yeah, over time, it's grown. It grew slowly, and once we realized, oh, okay, this was an art thing, because the other two of us were too afraid to jump. He was like, hey, we need a space. And we're like, no, it's too scary. And then we just did it, and then it was great. Which is the case for a lot of things that we do here. We're like, no, too scary. He's like, just do it. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, sounds good.
The connection with Hyper RPG, was that something that you guys had before, or did you just reach out to them out of the blue? Did some of you know some of the people there?
I knew. So I had done shows with Kim Cannon, who was on Pencils and Parsecs, which was their Star Wars show.
Right.
And then I helped out. Oh wait, no, I knew them before that. But yes, I mean that's what eventually got us the meeting. But I met them back when they were still at. It was Zach and Lucas when they were still at Geek and Sundry. Darren DePaul,
Right.
who I met at Kim's house, so still a Kim kind of connection. So Darren DePaul was like, "Hey, the How To Squad lost a guest. Do you want to come in and do felted friend things?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, sure." So I called out of work and I went down there, and that's when I met Lucas and Zach. And I taught Whitney Moore and Amy Dallin how to do felted friendy things.
Nice.
And then I just kind of stayed in touch. And then later I was like, "Hey, I've got an idea for a thing. You want to do it?" And they're like, "Yeah." They were super excited, and then heard nothing for months. And I was like, "Okay, well then we're just gonna do it." And then we did it. And then we still ended up going back. And at that point they had left Geek and Sundry.
Yeah.
Because I think it had been sold or whatever. I don't know the ins and outs of that. But then they started Hyper RPG, and then we went over there.
Nice.
So that was like the beginning of them before they went off to do like the cool badass. Kolak. Like Kolak became its own entity there for a bit, which was really cool.
Yeah. They're one of those. They're one of those that's kind of always been on the peripheral of like social circle. Like I've not had any crossover or interaction with them yet, but I'm like aware of them, and I'm like, one day I'll meet somebody that works with them and actually have that proper connection. I'm sure. How long did you say you were over with Hyper?
A year. A year. They basically gave us a year, and then we stopped making. We stopped making enough money to pay for ourselves for them, so they're like, "All right, time to go." And we're like, "Yep, that's business. See you later." It's like, no butthurt about it. Just kind of like, yeah, no, that makes sense. We're not making you money, and that's sort of the point. So bye bye.
Yeah, you gotta make that return on investment, I guess. And so you were like, "Hey, we weren't making money there. We'll go out on our own and also not make money for ourselves."
Pretty much.
And then there was a bit of a grinding period. Like you saw like a huge swath of people actually interested in you coming with you from Hyper when you were out.
Oh, huge is an overstatement. But yeah, we had a few people who were like, "We like these folks," and they stuck with us for a while.
Right.
But
it's amazing how you can make enough to make it worth wanting to keep going just from a very few. A very few but very excited audience. I found that when you're starting out streaming and things as well, like the sort of numbers you need to make money on YouTube are like, tens, hundreds of thousands before YouTube actually starts to pay it all. But the sort of money you need, sort of viewers you need to make money on Twitch, where it's like just a very engaged audience, that it's a lot less, because the people who are actually watching are like more willing to go, "Here's $5 because we really like your work and you're right here interacting with us, and so here's a few bits and here's a few dollars." And then that sort of don't want to say nickel and diming, that sort of almost microtransaction-y kind of nature of Twitch, of just being like encouraging small donations, can really add up to helping the creators actually be able to pay for their lunch that day.
Yeah, it really does. We started with it was a single camera. I don't even remember what kind it was. I think it was Art's camera. We didn't even have a table when we started. It was 2 sawhorses and like a plank of plywood with a cloth on it, and we like threw swords and coins on the table to be like, fantasy. And then and like we had no lighting to begin with. I mentioned Toilet Tea Paper earlier. He's the one who gave us our first like 3-point lighting system. It was like the cowboy kit that you can get that's super cheap. But yeah, he's just like, "Hey, like the only rule is like you got to pass this on to the next person who needs it. Like, but here you go." And I'm like, great. Yeah, he was great.
That's amazing.
And yeah, so like for the longest time, it was just upgrades. Okay, now we can do this. Now we can add lighting. Now we can add microphones, because we had one single microphone that I think we were all sharing initially too. It was so bad. Oh man.
I remember those days of being like in my garage when I was first starting streaming, and being like, I was on a laptop, and then I was like, right, now I can afford a computer, and then now I can afford a better headset, and now I can afford a microphone and stuff. And then just last night, I was for the last couple of weeks, I've been chatting with my mod and assistant Fancy about like my microphone setup when I go traveling, like when I go to Perth, Australia, to visit AJ Winters, or when I head over to Gen Con and things like I did earlier this year. And I was like, I don't want to be taking my entire bulky microphone with me for when I need to stream out there. So we were talking about those options, and we had these other microphones. And last night I was like, you know what, I need them, and then I just bought them. I was like, yeah, it's a few $100s, but now I'm at the position where I can afford to do that. So it's incredible to sort of look back and see over the years, like when you had to save up and save up and save up to be able to afford this new headset, and then save up and save up and save up again. And then you get eventually, you get an audience that's enjoying all of these little updates. They're seeing that the money that they're giving you is being invested straight back into more quality products. And
And we always try to call out exactly what we're looking for. Like recently, so we have 2 Blackmagic cameras now, which is insane. But the cables died on both of them. So we had to drop back down to the stuff we were using like 5 or 6 years ago, which aren't terrible cameras by any stretch, but it's like there's a noticeable difference. We're just like, hey, we need cables, but we also need to pay rent. Help us. And people helped us, which was lovely. But yeah, so we're at a point where we're pretty self-sufficient. It got real scary there after Gen Con because we had to, it was expensive. But it was super fun.
Gen Con was expensive. Gen Con's expensive for you guys, let alone coming from New Zealand. I can't
even imagine.
Like, there's all of the costs of going to Gen Con, plus the costs of actually traveling to America, which is like 1,000 something. It's expensive. So these days I've decided I'm doing like a business model, as it were, of like anytime I travel somewhere, I just run a ticketed event of like, play D&D with me, and here's, buy a ticket at my table and help me to pay for travel, and I'll play an in-person game with some fans in whatever city I'm going to. Yeah, it's a way of being able to pay for the travel, because I do enjoy travel. It's one of my major enjoyments in life is being able to get out and see things. Yeah, you like to travel?
Yeah, I do.
So present day, like, let's talk sort of modern present day of Perception Studio. Like, how many projects are you going? You've got 3 at the moment, you say, that's ongoing?
Yeah, so we Monday nights we have the Welcome Party, which is it's a talk show where they talk about like current nerd events and kind of bring people into the fold. Tuesday night is rotating games. So this Tuesday is going to be the last session of our Scooby-Doo inspired Monster of the Week show, which is called Enigma Enterprises. That one's been really fun. And then Wednesday night is Perception Check. And next month we're doing Dragon Age RPG. Set in the winter solstice with our friend Laugh Love Lindy, and AJ's on this one too.
Oh, nice. It's funny, the Dragon Age RPG is actually what got me into tabletop role playing at all. I haven't played it myself, but I was it came about from me visiting a friend in Oxford in the UK. And while she was there, while I was there, she goes, "Let's go to this cafe that I love," and she took me to this place called Thirsty Meeples, and it's a board game cafe with wall-to-wall, floor-to-ceiling board games. Like, they must have well over 1,000 board games, and very much like the board game cafe here that I was telling you about that my friend runs. I walked in and she goes, "What do you want to play?" And then they said, we sort of gave this idea of what we like to play, and they came back with this huge stack of board games. So we played these card games, these board games. We were having a good old time. We were there for most of the day, and it was so cheap to just do. At that point, I'd already been kind of into board gaming, but knowing how expensive it is to buy board games, I didn't know how to get into it. And I was starting to think about, like, what about some sort of board game rental service? How would that work? And would you be able to send off, like, you'd have to have some sort of deposit because of all the pieces, and then you wouldn't get them back. And then, of course, I see this board game cafe. I was like, oh, that's a great idea, because then people are renting the board game, but they don't take it away. They come to your space, they play the board game and leave. So having done that, I was like, if there's not one in New Zealand, I'm going to make one when I get back. And so I got super into board games and thinking about it. I got back and I discovered this board game cafe that I know, Cakes and Ladders, and started frequenting them. I was getting into board games in a big way. So I started looking up board games on YouTube and things as well. That's when I found Will Wheaton's Tabletop series.
Yeah!
And then
that got me in too.
Yeah,
that was my gateway to get.
Yeah, through Will Wheaton's Tabletop series, I saw them playing Dragon Age, and I was like, this isn't a board game, but it looks really fun. And then something in the back of my head from the zeitgeist, I guess, went, this is basically this is what D&D is. And I was like, oh yeah, I think I've heard of Dungeons & Dragons. I think that's kind of on the peripheral of my vision. And I got in touch with somebody who a few weeks before I'd learned just happenstance was a dungeon master. I was like, you do D&D, right? Would you run me a game? I'm kind of interested to see if it's something fun. And then they ran me a game, and it was like heroin in the veins. The camera zooms in, and my pupils, and then I black out. Wake up 3 years later, and I've got all of the Dungeons and Dragons books and everything. I'm like, this is my life for the rest of my life now. I found it. I found the one thing.
What was his actual play he did? Because I remember I bought the books for that. Titan's Grave. Did you ever watch Titan's Grave?
No, I never got around to watching Titan's Grave. Was it any good?
I think it's built on the Fantasy Age system, which I think is the same as the Dragon Age system. I don't remember. No, it's been a long time. But it was very funny, and that was probably the first actual play of any kind that I ever watched. Because I was already watching tabletop, and then that happened, or I don't know the order, because that's just when I found it. But it was delightful. Just a few episodes.
So Tabletop was a hell of a series. It was a lot of fun, and I just really enjoyed him. Like just the camaraderie feeling of like him just having his mates around, and just like these like big name celebrity nerds and actors and such, and they're just having fun being themselves, playing board games. And I was like, this is amazing. This is what I want to do. And it's really funny as well, because like since discovering D&D. I originally, while I went back to university to study maths, because my acting degree was like not doing anything for me. I was like, I'll go back and get a real job. And then while I went back to study maths, I found D&D and like that was scratching the itch. And for a while it was just the feeling of like, oh, one day maybe I'll do acting again. Maybe I'll do some like Amdram stuff. But acting is still like my passion. And D&D is just kind of scratching that itch. And then I realized later, much more recently, no, that was the other way around. Like acting was never fully fulfilling for me, and I wasn't the best like I'm an okay actor, but I wasn't great at like the technical side of like being on film, because like being in character and then also having to remember like, oh, you can't go 6 inches forwards because then you've lost your light, and having to keep that in your mind while also staying in character was never my thing. And then I discovered that, D&D was what I was always meant for. D&D was my destiny. D&D is what I'm like, my wheelhouse of like all of the things that I enjoy and all the things I'm good at come together in a perfect storm for being a dungeon master, a games master. And acting was the one that was scratching the itch. Acting was like, oh, this is close to what you want to be doing. But then when I found tabletop, I was like, okay, this is what you want to be doing. That's a good feeling.
It is a good. I love it. I love that. What else? My train of thought. I had a thing. It's gone. Out of my brain.
Thought, and it's gone. And it's gone. Oh well. If it comes back, it comes back. So what's the future of Perception Studio look like? What's you've got your 3 projects at the moment: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for a reason? Like you choose those days because that's just the days that the people.
It's the days that most people are available, and then we always do our meetings on Sundays. So those like non-stream, just us planning stuff out. And then, and we do. But yeah, future-wise, like big blue skies goals is we want more shows, we want more people involved, and we also want to be pulling in enough to pay people. We experimented with that for a little bit, and it was great. Until it really wasn't immediately, and then we're like, we're out of money, we must stop. And thankfully everyone's been really understanding, but we're just kind of like, sorry.
I've known a few people like that. I've known a few streamers that are like asking me on their channel and stuff, and they'll be like, do you want to come and do a guest star? We make a point of always paying our guests and stuff, and I'm like, you really don't need to. Like I'm doing it for a collab. I'll always do a collab with someone if it's like if it's a system that I haven't played before, so I get to be introduced to new gaming. If it's like people that I haven't met before, so I get to do some networking. If it's like a charity thing, like I don't need paying if it's something like that kind of thing. And then sure enough, like they try that for a little while. They're like, no, it's important to us that we pay all our guests and stuff. And then very short while later they'll be like, look, we really got to stop this, and I hope you understand. And we're like, we all understand. It's not an industry that pays very well unless you're fucking massive with it. So just it's okay. we're all understanding.
That's one of our goals, right? So we want to grow a lot, and we'd also like it to be, because all of our shows are interactive in some capacity, and we'd like to be able to lower that down a little bit so more people can play. But currently, because of our needs, it's we have to, ask for a little bit more. But it's like I'm always of the mind that I'd rather have like 1,000 people giving me $1 than like 2 people giving me like $1,000.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And because it's like I want it to be light and fun and people to not really be thinking about it. I don't want it to impact their wallets as much.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I always used to say that when I started out as well. I was like, hey. Give me what you can financially, but like only give me what you can. Don't give me what you can't. Like I am the entertainment budget, so you pay for all of the things that are important in your life first, and then you see what's left over and go, how much would I be willing to pay for going to the cinema and whatever for like an evening? If I've given you an evening of entertainment, think what that was worth to you, and maybe patronize me on Patreon. Or something like that, then you can support me financially, because the end of the day is there are enough people who are in a financially stable enough position to support me, that you not doing so doesn't concern me. Like I'm fine with the people who are struggling or aren't as well off or whatever. you can enjoy this content for free, because there are people who are wealthy enough and generous enough to support that and more, like to cover what you're not giving me, as it were. And that's fine. There are, and what's more is there are a million ways to support your creators, not that aren't financial. You can just engage with their content. Viewers are important. View numbers are important. Sponsorship is important from advertisers, and the things that they look at is engagement and viewer numbers and followers and stuff. So like if you
100%.
if you want to support them and you can't afford to do so, engage with the content, write things on there, like the algorithms on YouTube, the liking and commenting and subscribing and stuff. There's a reason every YouTuber asks for it. It's because it genuinely helps. Anyone who comes out who has money, any big companies that are like, hey, advertise this thing, they're going to look at all of those. They're going to look at all of those metrics of like how much has that video been shared and stuff like that. And so those are ways to help your content creators.
Yeah. That's true. Like not to say I'm ungrateful for the people who give us a lot. I mean, thank you very much.
I will take the one person giving me $1,000. Like if you're one of the whales and you're like, I got a job that in like, I don't know, oil. I'm an oil baron and I love your content. Here's 10 grand. I'm not going to turn that down. But at the same time, it's okay if you want to engage with the content in different ways. So your blue sky is to continue growing Perception Studio. Where would you like to be with it? What would you like people to think of when they think of Perception Studio? Like, what's the reputation that you're trying to build?
Reputation. I mean, okay, so we're all a bunch of like jerks, kind of, but we're also a safe space. Like, and I think that's really important to all of us. Is we want to make sure everyone who comes to play with us is comfortable. People who are watching are comfortable. Like, we have filthy mouths but big hearts. It's kind of what we're aiming for. So like, we want people to sit down and know they're like watching people like joshing with each other and stuff, as opposed to like we're not mean.
There's nothing. There's nothing mean.
Real sweet.
Yeah, no, everybody cares about everybody there, and it's safe for people to focus on their mental health as well. Like you were saying before, like if somebody's in need of money and they get a job come up, like that's their priority.
Yeah. But I mean, mostly it's like, we want people to pop in and munch some popcorn and have a good time. Like, we want it to be as good a show as it is like a friendly place. And our goal is many laughs per minute.
You want the perception check to continue being the flagship of the thing throughout. Like that's the future to continue.
I think so.
Check.
Until the next thing happens, right? And we're even finagling with that a little bit. Like, we swapped around who's GMing. We've had guest people come in and out. Like, it hasn't been one ongoing campaign for a long time. We had one for a while. Ryan built his own homebrew world called Amora, and we ran in that for a long time. And then we're like, okay, similar to what was happening on Tuesdays, we're like, all right, we need people to be able to jump in, do the thing, and jump out. So we're doing shorter campaigns, shorter adventures, and it gives us an opportunity to change stuff up. So we let, like, Corey, she got to GM for the first time on stream ever, and it was super fun. And we've made Connie do it. She ran Rime of the Frost Maiden for us, and she's like, never again, you guys suck. And like, we're like, okay, that's fair.
I have heard and seen. I got to be at the live game that you ran for Gen Con as well. But it was Man, it was a lot of fun. Gen Con was an experience. It was my first time there, and it was crazy. So like, it was so busy, and there was so much going on all of the days. And I got to the end of the Gen Con experience, and it was like the Sunday or something. It was the last day of Gen Con, I think. And you guys were running a thing after. What was it? So I think we had a thing in the morning with Sarah, and then you went straight into a Perception Studio with Ryan running it. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go see that as well. And I remember sitting in the audience just being like, how the fuck is he doing this? Like, how is Ryan able to get any semblance of us? And that's from me. Like, anybody who knows my work with the Viva La Dirt League guys, everybody's like, you've got patience of a saint, you wrangling cats and trying to get some sort. And I was like, man, I would have my work cut out for me with the Felted Friends. and I was sitting there in the audience, and I remember just being like, every so often something would happen where you because it's chaotic enough as it is, like with just like jumping around and things coming up and like jokes expanding into other jokes. Mm-hmm. And then compounded on top of that was the fact that I caught myself eventually I must have been micro sleeping because of how little I was sleeping throughout the week, because I was like wait, why are they in a cave now? What, who are they fighting? Oh, they're fighting orcs, I think. And then I just, like, the next moment it would be like somebody's on the floor dying in somebody's arms. I'd be like, what is happening? And then I realized, I'm so exhausted from basically not sleeping for the entirety of Gen Con that I just not following the story. So I was like, at that point, it's kind of like fighting against the river rapids. I was just like, just get onto your back. Just get onto your back and keep your head above water and just go where it's taking you.
Ryan doesn't get enough credit for what he has to deal with us. So, yeah.
Man, I don't know how Ryan did it, and I don't know how you guys had that much energy on the last day of a convention as large as Gen Con.
I feel like that's like latent Disney training. I think because it's like we would come in, we'd stumble into the work some mornings, and then we'd still have to do our 6 shows, and it's just like the second it's like, once it's up, we're like, all right,
bam, Disney energy. We got the
and
Disney
then
energy.
Collapse immediately afterward.
We got that Disney energy.
Watch me after a show, after any stream. I mean, none of you at home will. The next time we hang out in person, pay attention to me after a show. Complete shutdown, complete power off mode, like no longer a person is bad.
Hence the need for a short rest after a lot of socializing. Understood. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it. So just to remind everybody at home, I have been reading the chat. I've been reading the questions, but to make sure your question doesn't get ignored or forgotten about, redeem it with the channel point redemptions. I'm going to open up the requests queue now and start asking some of the questions that have been asked from the chat. So if you want to ask a question as well, thank you, Nightbot. You can ask whatever you like of me or Cucumber, and we'll do our best to answer them as we go. All right. So Cucumber, are you ready? That's the first question.
I'm ready.
Wonderful. All right, so an hour ago, we had a question come in from Tyrannius. Mm-hmm. Tyrannius asks, hello there, short question. What is your opinion about a Forge Cleric with a new Rune Carver background, playing a Hill Dwarf? The Rune Carver background. I don't know.
Sounds neat. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, I don't know what it sounds amazing. Basically,
so
my opinion, Tyrannius, is if it sounds cool to you, absolutely, that's it. That's all you need to know. It sounds cool, do it.
Have me a dwarf though. They're my favorite ones to play.
Oh yeah, you love dwarves? What do you like about dwarves?
Dwarves are my favorite. They're so, I like the craftsmen, the heart they put into their work. Mm-hmm. I'm a big fan of that. Like ever since growing up reading Tolkien stuff, I've just loved dwarves.
Yeah, I've just been reworking my dwarves in my homebrew world, and deciding what they are and stuff. So in my world, I've decided that they're practically right on the verge of being elemental. They're like so in tune with rocks that they're like almost elemental. They're on the humanoid side of the spectrum, but they're still very much have an affinity for rocks. So I gave them things like tremor sense. When they're in contact with unworked stone, they can just kind of sense anything else that is in contact with that stone. I also give them like a magneticism, so that they can always tell which way is north, or that if they're by a source of ferrous metal, they just kind of have a sense for where it is, to give them more of a biological reason for being such good miners. Worked on that sort of stuff as well, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoy the dwarfs. I've finished their biology now, and I'm just kind of world building their their culture and societies and societal norms and things like that. Because one of the things I want to expand for my homebrew world is like, what does a funeral look like to an elf, and what does a wedding look like to a hobbit, and things like that.
Yeah.
So I'm working my dwarves at the moment. So what is your opinion about a Forge Cleric with the new Runecarver background? I don't know the Runecarver background, but I'm sure if it's official content, that sounds great. The two things to keep in mind, Tyrannius, is will you have fun playing it, and will it fit into the world and story of the GM? Like, run it through to the GM and just be like, do dwarves exist in your world, and do Forge Clerics exist, and what sort of god would I be a cleric to if I was a Forge Cleric? But it sounds fun. Do it. Centauri asks, what is the craziest thing that you've Googled for a game that you realise I better add 5e to the end of that?
Wait, say that? Is that the first half again? Sorry.
What is the craziest thing that you've ever Googled for a game that you then realise I better add 5e to the end of that? I'll start off. I have Googled how long does it take for a body to decompose, and what are the best ways to get rid of a body, and then I went, oh shit, 5 Dungeons and Dragons. I better put that on the end. I have, because I've had what do they call them? Body farms. Do you know about body farms in real world?
I do know about body farms.
So fucking weird and creepy, but absolutely necessary for understanding more about forensics. For those who don't know, they're basically places you can donate your body to after death, where they'll just throw your body out into the wilderness in various different circumstances to watch how long it takes for bodies to decompose under those circumstances. Because then they can watch you, and they take notes of like, his eyes are filled with maggots at this hour on this day, and after it's been this many hours after death that his bloating has occurred, and this is when he starts to smell under these circumstances and these temperatures and things. And they can learn all sorts of things. And I've kind of had one of those in my game at one point as like a red herring plot hook for a campaign that was like, they came across a body and they were like, oh, it must be dead. There must be bandits around that have murdered this guy, and then they discovered no, it's actually a wizard's university essentially. And so for that, I was learning. I was looking up like how long would it take a body to decompose in the woods and stuff like this, and I was like, I'm on a list. I'm definitely on a list.
I think I looked up poisons or something like that, like naturally occurring poisons. That would have been my incriminating one.
Yeah, how to poison a tea without getting is there any poison?
Like, which ones taste like food? Like, yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
Yeah, there's also, it's funny as well because like the FBI agent in charge of looking up like my search history must be so confused, because he's got things like that, and then things like what are the most common ingredients to make an explosive out of for like artificers when you're trying to put together a bomb, and then immediately after that it's things like how does a Dutch windmill work, and things where he's like, I don't know what he's planning, but he's planning something with windmills and Roman aqueducts, and he's looking up now how sewage systems used to work in the medieval times.
I learned that I don't know anything about boats, because there was a large portion of the game that took place on the sea, and I just did not understand how ships worked. So I would constantly, like, just every day be like, okay, but where's this room? How does that work? God, where's the food? What?
Boats are definitely one of them. Yeah, boats are definitely one of them where you'll just be like in the game and you're just like, the front of the boat, and then some nerd's like, you mean the bow of the boat? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Did you know what I meant when I said front? Because that's a word that means front, right? So so front of the boat also works, right? Front of the boat. The underwater bit of the boat. You mean the hull, or do you mean the... Yeah, all of the different masts of the boat. I always want to know that stuff. I always want to know it, but like retaining it is a different matter. Yep. All right. Fancy Unicorn asks, what lesser known TTRPG would you recommend each other play? Ooh, very good question.
Ooh.
What's your go-to recommendation for TTRPGs, smaller known ones?
Lesser known. I mean, I don't know. I think Kids on Bikes is like my go-to for new players for systems these days.
I haven't played it yet. What do you like about it?
Oh, it's great. It has what a lot of RPG games don't, which is like consequences, right? Because you're playing as children trying to survive a very real, dangerous world. It's kind of modeled after like 80s kids movies,
right? Yeah.
Where it's like there's always some horrible aspect, but it's like if you break your arm's broken. Like there's no like healing
Magic
potion
healing.
that's gonna snap it back together. You have to deal with that for the rest of the game or until your character heals. So it's like, if you're faced with a gun in that game, it matters. It's not just like, oh, we're gonna get into a firefight. You're like, this man has a gun and he's pointing it at me and I'm scared. But also like the system is really simple to learn, and it's like so all of your stats are assigned one of the polyhedral dice, and like simple stats, simple abilities, really easy to jump into. And then if you like other genres, they also have Teens in Space and Kids on Brooms, if you want to do like magic stuff. And Kids on Brooms was a delight because you end up like the way you build your characters in your world is you all do it together. And you build like, when was the time that your friend over here betrayed you, and like how do you feel about it now? And so you go in with all these emotional anchor points, and it's real fast. And then once you're in. It's super fun.
That's good. I like that stuff. Yeah, I'll have to check those out. I think Kids on Bikes has been on my my list of TTRPGs to check out for a while. Let me find one that you haven't played. Have you played Sexy Battle Wizards?
I have played Sexy Battle Wizards.
It's so much fun. I love Sexy Battle Wizards. For anyone who doesn't know what Sexy Battle Wizards is, you do know what Sexy Battle Wizards is because it's in the title. That's all it is. You have 3 stats: Sexy Battle and Wizard, and all of the problems you come up against, all of the encounters you have, all dealt with by one of those stats. Let me find when you have
Lasers and Feelings is another.
Lasers and Feelings, I've heard.
Yeah.
That's a Adventure Zone one, right? McElroy's, did they come up with that, or did they just play it?
I don't know.
I heard them playing it. I'm not sure if they came up with it or not. What about? Oh, have you played Thirsty Sword Lesbians?
Not yet. No, that one's on the list though.
Yeah, I just ended up just finished a 3-shot that was 5 episodes because you know how it goes. I just finished up a 3-shot playing in that over on Winter's Tales with Sarah Moore running it, and AJ Winters, Zach Naum, and the Playmat as my fellow players. That was a lot of fun. It was so much more feelings than you'd expect, though. Like Sarah was saying afterwards, she was like, "Oh, I've had some Thirsty Sword Lesbian games where it's just like absolute silly nonsense and just so horny, and like they end up in space fighting dominatrix space Nazis or something." And then ours was very much not that. I was ended up with so much feel, so much emotion. It was a hell of a system for a game called Thirsty Sword Lesbians. You're just not what we were expecting at all. But it was a lot of fun. How about Kaiju Girls? Have you played that one?
No.
Kaiju Girls, Kaiju Girls is another Grant Howitt one-shot, and it is exactly what it sounds like. You are playing schoolgirls that can turn into kaiju when you are stressed enough, and so you have like a stressed meter, and then you have like the first time you turn into a kaiju, you roll like on a D10 table 3 times or something, and discover like you've got several rows of teeth, you've got wings, and you've got tentacles for a face or something, and then you roll in for your kaiju, and then you've got like the drama that is happening under your school drama on the same on the exact same like scale, the same importance on the page is like all of your tentacles and kaiju shit, and then like Sarah stole your homework, like, stuff like this. Brandy has been gossiping about you and the local whatever. It's a lot of fun. I ran that once on my channel. Merkwerky asks, have you seen The Gamers movie from 2002?
No.
Is that Darkness Uprising? Is that one? I believe I have, yes. Everybody raves about it, and for some reason I can't get into it. Like, I've watched it a couple times, I've tried it a couple times because everybody talks about how funny it is, and I was just like, it's not my sort of humor, I guess. But yes, I have seen it.
I heard about it.
The Gamers Darkness Uprising, and it's meant to be like a what do they call it? Like a low budget. There's a word for it. I'm failing. Do you know Red Dwarf? Do you know the series Red Dwarf? Yeah. It's kind of, you know how there's the part of the appeal of that is it's kind of low budget, kind of niche humor kind of thing. Darkness Uprising is kind of like that. It's designed to be like a low budget feel to it, and just a few friends making a feature film together. All about D&D. Grouchy Monster asks, any particular drops or homebrew nightmares like Footapede? Footapede?
The Footapede. This is something that happened on our channel. Yes, there's a Footapede because I hate feet. I think they're gross. People should have hooves. It would just be more efficient. and less disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Footipede is definitely up there. There was one, this is horrific, and I'm sorry. It was something like a giraffe being milked by a minotaur that was in turn being milked by something else, and something had the milk fall. It was awful, and we ended up with like somebody did fan art and put it in our Discord, and it was unfortunately good because it properly depicted this horrific image.
Yeah, I've had a few of those where we're like something
Yeah.
will come up and then we've got enough fans in the community now that it's like, and that's art. We asked for one the other day. We asked for one the other day during the Dragonlance campaign because me and AJ are playing twins in that game, and the whole party are siblings. We're all family, and we were fighting this guy that was way more powerful than we were, and we didn't realize until we got started and was like, oh shit, this is a TPK coming. We better run. And one of our brothers conjured a drake companion, one of those guard drakes, basically a wingless dragon. And he grabbed my unconscious body in his mouth, and then my twin sister jumped on his back and rode him out of there. And then Rackham, the GM Workshop. I don't know if have you met Rackham GM Workshop? He's definitely someone we should introduce you guys to as well, because he's a hell of a GM, very funny guy as well, really good streamer. He's running the game, and he was talking about this. So the Drake runs away, not the rapper. And every time he referenced the Drake, he was like, not the rapper, not the musician. And so eventually we were like, I can own every time you say it, it more solidifies for me that it is the musician Drake that has got me in his mouth and my sister's riding him. And so I was like, I have to see that now. And so I was like, artist in the community, if you want to draw that. And then sure enough, Ajo from my community, she put together this drawing of Drake in his like iconic puffer jacket, big puffy thing with his the meme and that, but he's like got me dangling out of his mouth and my sister riding his shoulders, horsey style. I love having artists in the community. I've got a good friend of mine who's an illustrator and an animator full time, and I played D&D with him, and he goes, the best way to get free art is to inspire the artist. Like to do something that inspires them to draw, because they're artists for a reason. They're artists because they want to make art. They're storytellers because they want to tell stories. They're drawers because they want to draw. Musicians because they want to make music. So like if you want free art in any way, you shouldn't ask for free art because people can't pay their rent with exposure. But if you want free art, the best way to do it is to inspire them to give you that art, like to give them something so visual that they can't help but get it down on paper. Yeah, no, I love that. It's great stuff. So Footipede, what was Footipede? It was the milking centaur thing?
Oh no, the Footipede was separate. So it's like a giant centipede with a million little feet that also had like feet on the feet or something.
Oh,
it just kept going. It was bad. There was a lube cube at one point and a beholder that instead of eye stalks had dicks. Like it was rough. It was rough there for a while.
I've had a few monsters that people are like, so is everything all right, Rob? Yeah. I got my start on streaming by one of the things I thought I would want to do was statting out monsters because a friend of mine and one of the Viva la Dirt League crew, Ben Van Leer, he's an artist as well, and on stream for a while he was doing monsters. He'd just kind of start drawing and see what ended up. He had nothing in mind when he started, and one time he drew this he drew this creature that looked like this floating slug centipede looking thing, but it had like mandibles and it had a human eye, just a huge beholder like human eye in the center, and a proboscis. And it was so grotesque and wonderful, and I was like, can I stat that? And he's like, sure thing. And so one of my first streams as a D&D content streamer was to come up with some homebrew stats for that, and I called it the Cyclopede. And then more recently, I threw it at one of my players at the interactive game that I run here on Twitch. I threw it at the players, and they were like, "No, we know what's coming from the description. I don't want to fight it." Basically, any kind of centipede we're finding. Everybody hates centipedes. Joe Baby asks, if you could pick any 4 people in the world to be on a dream table to play with, who would it be and what would you play? Ooh, very good question.
Living or dead?
Living or dead, I guess. Yeah, historical, even fictional. Let's say. Why not?
Sure. I want Sir Terry Pratchett.
Oh,
I want I want Neil Gaiman.
Oh yeah,
I
good
want
call.
I want Tolkien, but I know he'd be pouty through
I
the whole thing.
I just was thinking that. I was like, oh, Tolkien.
Yeah.
No way, he'd be
No,
terrible.
I want him to be miserable. Like I want to give him a hard time. I love him, but I know he'd suffer, but I'd want him to suffer for this. And then I would want like Robin Williams to piss off everyone else at the table, but also be delightful.
100%. Man, we're on a wavelength. Robin Williams has always been on my list of like dream table. When people ask this question, I'm like Robin Williams, Jack Black. Those guys both be amazing at it.
And I'd want Pratchett to be the GM specifically.
Oh
like,
yeah,
I want to run in either Discworld or anything else that falls out of his brain.
Can you imagine like his descriptions of what's going on in the scene? It'd be difficult. It would be difficult to be there.
You'd have to have somebody else walking in with the asterisk punchlines.
Yeah, for sure. Let's think. I reckon it'd be interesting to have to play in C.S. Lewis world, like to have C.S. Lewis run something through Narnia.
Sure,
that'd be an interesting game.
Not oh gosh, was it Paralandria? Is that his other one, the sci-fi one? Is that
I don't know.
Swiftly, yeah, he did a sci-fi one. It's weird. There's otter people. It's
weird. Have you ever seen Shadowlands? It's a film with Anthony Hopkins and it's a stage play as well, and it's about C.S. Lewis's life, and he had quite an interesting life because he ended up this pen pal, this American woman pen pal that they ended up sort of falling in love, and it's quite a sad story. You go into it thinking like, oh, this is gonna be something to do with Narnia. And it's like, no, it's not really to do with Narnia. It's more of just his life. But it's an incredible film if you ever get the chance to watch it. Anthony Hopkins does an incredible performance in it, which I guess goes without saying.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. Oh, D. Hairstrom said something in the chat. Was what would happen if we put Cuke with Todd Stashwick? I've played a game with Todd Stashwick at the Dragon and Meeple in LA for a fundraiser event.
And what happened?
It was great. It was super fun. Keith Baker ran it. It was me and him and Ebony. She was a wrestler, like a pro wrestler, but she played some stuff. It was really fun. He's real good. I felt like, when sometimes like your vibe does not match the rest of the table. I'm like, y'all knew what you got when you got me at this table, right? And I just felt there's a point where I was like, I don't think they like me very much.
Oh, really?
They were delightful. Everyone was super fun. Everyone was great. Sorry, he was very nice. I'm recalling.
You gotta know what you're getting into if you invite the Felted friends.
Yeah, it was fun though. It was.
You can maybe wrangle them if it's one of you on your own. But
he's super cool. He's just a badass. He's so cool.
How about those ones that are like the go-to that people don't expect to be into D&D, like Vin Diesel, is it, that plays D&D, or is it?
Vin Diesel's into D&D, and Joe Manganiello.
Yeah, Joe Manganiello, and what's Terry Crews? Terry Crews, like having a.
Oh really?
Terry Crews is huge into D&D, yeah. If you had it, I reckon that would be a fun table to run for. Like, do like an Oops All Barbarian party or something, or do the opposite and go against type and do like all of these huge, big, muscly action movie star kind of guys, and then have them all playing like pixie rogues or something, or something like that. Would be a lot of fun, I reckon, as well. I just want to play D&D, Joe baby.
Yeah.
All of them. You said pick 4. I'm gonna move that 4 and say all of the people, everybody who's into D&D. I want to play with them all. All right, we got to. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I got to at D&D Live, like the second year that they did that event in LA. I got to see Deborah Ann Wall run a game. I've never watched any of her streams or anything, but I was like the 10 or 15 minutes that I saw, I'm like, she's so good at this.
Yeah, Deborah Ann Wall's a fantastic dungeon master, real good player as well. Like the stuff I've seen of her play, I'm like really impressed with the characterizations and stuff that she comes up with. Bria Iyengar, love her work. Erika Ishii. I was really gutted that I didn't get to bump into her at Gen Con this year, but like I love her her performances in whenever she's a character in something. So many people to play with. Pretty much anyone who's either been on or run Dimension 20. I'm like, let's go.
Oh yeah, I gotta cram Brennan Lee Mulligan into my game somewhere.
Yeah, so
I want to play with him so bad.
one day, Cucumber, you will. We'll get there. What else was I going to say about that? Something about that. I can't remember what it was. Never mind. Fancy Unicorn asks, for when the video hits YouTube... Fancy does my editing for these things. For when the video hits YouTube, can I please have a short rest soundbite? If Cucumber has one, then give me that. But if not, she's got a prompt question. We're looking for some 20 seconds to a minute soundbite of something. If you're struggling for content, she's got a question, which is, what is the most surprising party idea that actually paid off? But you can go with whatever you want.
Ooh, we did a campaign once that was it accidentally ended up being all bards because none of us communicated while we were while we were playing this game. So we all ended up being bards. We were all very ineffective bards because we didn't pay attention to our schools or anything like that. And it was such a hodgepodge mix of like very fragile characters who couldn't survive in the wild. And for whatever reason, we ended up rolling very well, and it all worked out, much to the chagrin of our GM at the time. And it was a hoot. Against all odds. I loved it.
It was an actual oops all bads. You hear about oops
really
all whatever, but it's like planned in advance. But no, oops all bads.
Yeah, we all showed up. We're like, so what'd you make? Oh, I'm a bard. What'd you make? I'm a bard. What would you? I also am a hell.
I love that. I love those things though. I'm genuinely all for it. Like if somebody often says like, I wanted to play this, but I don't. But you know that person's playing something like. Sometimes it's not even that close. Like somebody goes, I wanted to play a shadow monk, but that person's already a rogue. I'm like, those are so different. Go for it. Do the thing. I could play. Yeah. I want to one day eventually have basically a bunch of clones playing and see what happens. Like to basically have the same background class, race.
Oh sure.
And like subclass even, and just be like, you're all playing assassin rogues. You're all human assassin rogues from the same guild. And then just do it as a one shot, and then have that to point to when people are like, oh, niches, and it's like, look how much of a niche you can find when you are when you're creatively stifled like that. Like like stifling or boundaries can breed creativity so much more. It's like a pressure cooker or something. Like the closer you get those boundaries, the more the creativity is fighting back to be like, let's find ways to use this.
I also build terrible characters on purpose because they're way more fun when you fail all the time, I think.
Yeah. Not not a min-maxer or optimizer anyway.
No! Failure's the best! It gives you something to react to. It's just my favorite.
Yeah, I love having I quite like min-maxing because of the min part of it. Like if I'm going to be the best at one thing, I wanna be the very best. Only at one of my things. So I'll have like a wizard with like a maxed out intelligence and be like he knows everything about arcana and spells, but if you push him over, he like a light breeze will push him over. I also like occasionally having a dump stat in con so that your hit points are just tanked and just be like I'm elderly and I've got asthma and I'm sick, but I can go into a rage, or I can whatever. I can climb a rope
howitzer
really well.
at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, those are the characters and the stories that can be really fun to tell, because hell, you've got something, as you said, something to react to. The nat ones are like, okay, let's explain how my guy who is meant to be really good at this thing suddenly is really bad at the thing. The one thing that is really frustrating though is when you are sort of a min-max or an optimized character for a particular thing. Like I've got a character that's all about deception and like subterfuge. He's kind of like a he's a rogue, but he's a mastermind rogue that's more about networking and understanding people rather than like stabbing a fool. So he's all about that stuff, and he's got like a +9 in deception. He's got +12 in whatever. And then you roll for those things with advantage and get like a 4. And you're like, the dice are really just not working. Because now I'm forced to tell a story of, but why is my guy useful for the party at all then? If you're in what is a straight comedy, something like Perception Check, then absolutely it works. You can just be like, oh, I flounder, I fall, I drop my thing, and I'm useless. And then people can lean into the, what are you even good for? But like if you're in a game that is otherwise like high stakes danger and stuff, and then suddenly you can't do the one thing that you're meant to be good at in the party, it can feel like fucking dice.
Yup.
This is why I tend to give my players 1 hero point per session. That's just like, look, if you're trying to do something heroic that your character should be good at, and the dice say no, this is your 1 token to be like, no, I'm cashing in this token. I'm just gonna do the thing, and I'm gonna have it be as heroic as I want it to be, because I don't want my guy to feel like a bumbling idiot. All right, I think that's the end of the questions. Any other questions coming in? Get them in now. Otherwise, let's start to get into wrap-ups, I guess.
Sure.
One of the reasons I min-max most of the time, because I want to do the thing I'm supposed to be good at, skill focus. Yeah, I like to focus on. I like to have a character that's focused on one thing. I'll be like, okay, this guy's about deception. I'll go all in on deception. Or this guy's about really good, like a druid who's really good with animals and animals specifically. Then I'll go all in on the animal stuff, and I'll usually pick my spells to be like focused around that stuff as well. Whenever I'm playing a wizard for one instance, I'll always just pick a school of magic and just be like, that's it. I'm an evocation wizard, so I'm only taking evocation spells. And if you want me to be a utility boy, not the guy for it. They'd be like, you're a wizard. Why can't you fly us over this thing? No, I can shoot you with fire.
Yeah, I made an artillerist gif at one point, and he was lethal. If he hit, that was it, because he had like sharpshooter and all these other like feats that just made anything ranged monstrous. He was so fun.
Nice. Is there any character or race or class or anything that you haven't played yet that you're itching to in the right circumstances?
I don't know if there's anything I haven't played at this point, because I feel like we're building new characters every couple of weeks, and I always try the one that I haven't done. Oh, you know what? I haven't played the bug people. There's this
the 3 Kreen?
Yankee or something. Or the 3 Kreen. I haven't played those guys
with
yet.
the 4 arms. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I've done everything else.
A 3 Kreen either. I have played a similar one in Starfinder, the sci-fi version of Pathfinder. Played a bug person in that, which was quite fun, and they had several arms as well, and the way that's balanced in that game is all about crunch. It's very much based on Pathfinder 1E, and so it's all crunchy. Do you played Pathfinder or any of the really, really crunchy systems other than No,
too intimidating. Oh gosh, because there's one I really wanted to play the Modifia's Star Trek game, and then I cracked open that book and I was like, I need someone else to run this for me. There's too much.
It's hilarious. The Viva guys were really wanting to run the Alien RPG, and they completely underestimated. I think I make it look too easy for them, so they didn't realize how much work goes into that sort of stuff and learning these systems. And so they had like a night off, like the board game night or something, and they brought Alien RPG apparently, and they were like, yeah, we were looking at it for like an hour and we still couldn't make. I was like, an hour? You'd need to put a week into a system like that. Like, you're not going to learn it and play it in an hour. And they're like, here, you have this, and you learn it and run it for us. I was like, all right, one day I'll do so. Then I introduced them to one-page RPGs. I was like, hey, if you want to pick up a game like on the same day that you're gonna run it, you need a one-pager.
And they're so fun. And honestly, you can get a lot of good stuff out of it. It really is just kind of like, if you tell everyone what you want your tone to be at the top, it's a totally different game within the same system. So I've played Lasers and Feelings, where it is, basically it's like an improv session. It's just super, super funny. And I've also played it almost completely straight, where people are crying by the end of it. So it really is just kind of like, it's whatever you bring to the table is the kind of game you're going to have. And that's why I love this stuff so much.
It's so good, and it's so versatile. You can, absolutely. It's kind of like what I was saying about the Thirsty Sod Lesbians. Like, it's the name implies one thing, and if you set the tone to something else at the very beginning and start setting up all sorts of other stuff, you can really hit those feelings hard. It's a lot of fun. I love TTRPGs. Let's just keep playing forever, I reckon. Should we just keep playing TTRPGs forever?
I think so.
Is that cool?
Make room for board games too, though. That was my question. That was the thing that escaped my brain forever ago. What is your current go-to board game? What is the one at the top of your list?
Okay. I always my mind goes to Sheriff of Nottingham. Have you played that one?
Oh, I love that one. Yes.
Yeah, it's so much fun. And like with most board games, it becomes so much more fun when you add roleplay into it. I love one of my favorite things to do is adding roleplay into non-role-playing games. Like coming up with characters like in Cluedo, like properly acting out the characters and stuff like this. Yeah, Sheriff of Nottingham's a lot of fun one. I played one. I played one the other day that was. I think I would want to play again to see if I liked it or not. Like it was involved enough that I was like, oh, that was fun, but a lot of it was spent just learning the game. It was, I can't remember what it was called, but it was something about menagerie or something about monsters. It was by the same guy who created Magic the Gathering, and you could kind of tell from the design of it because you had a bunch of cards that you'd pick up, and then you could play some terrains, some like the Enchanted Forest or the Dreamlands or whatever, and then you had certain other cards that were monsters that lived in those particular terrains, and so you couldn't play the Dryad unless you'd also played an Enchanted Forest first. But then if you did play a Dryad, then the Dryad was worth so many monster points towards your menagerie. Like the idea was to build out all of these monsters that you were capturing, and you were out there. There were other monsters that could have like cage cards, and if you had to have more cages than the danger level of the monster, and eventually, like at the end, there was some involved with a lot of things. There was money involved as well. Like if you didn't have enough cages for the monster danger, then the monster ran rampage and did a bunch of damage, and so you had to pay for the damage with coins. And at the end of each round, like you'd total up your monsters, then you take those ones and put them in your menagerie, and then you'd go out to capture new monsters on the next round. It was very involved, and at the end of it, I won. And I was like, "Did I win? Oh, I don't know what I didn't have a strategy of how to win. I just was kind of just doing every single moment was like, do what's best in this moment, because I don't know what the long game is of a game like this." But that's kind of I kind of like that about board games in general, is just that learning of a game, discovering whether it's your sort of thing, giving it a couple of shots of like, let's try that again. Let's see if I can employ a new strategy and see if I can enjoy it. Is there like a category of board game that you are more drawn to? Like you like deck builders, or you like worker placement, or
those two are my top. So I love worker placement. I love deck builders. So my current go-to is Dune Imperium with the 2 expansions.
Right.
Which is just it's delightful, because I'm also a huge Dune nerd.
Right.
So it's like the theming is on point, but so is the game. Like the game design is pretty solid. Although the base game without the first expansion is a little lacking, but once you get Rise of Ix in there, it's like it's go time. It's so fun.
Yeah.
And then another top favorite is a worker placement called Tricarion, where you're a bunch of, it's basically the movie The Prestige.
Yes.
Okay, so think it's like that, except you're all players are competing to be the best magician to get a shard of the Tricarion stone.
Right.
But you have to hire assistants, get materials for your tricks, rehearse your tricks, reserve a night in the theater, go to a psychic to see like what deals you can get. You go to the black market. There's 10,000 things you can do in this game, and it's so fun. But that one's super crunchy. Like you have to dedicate your entire evening to one playthrough of it.
I was speaking of huge long games that take forever to play. Have you played Twilight Imperium?
No, I have one friend who I'm going to play it with, and we're just trying to find the day.
Twilight Imperium is like sometimes it's like an all weekend kind of game. It's like sometimes you got to put it aside and just be like, let's pick up tomorrow, because God, it's a long game. It's like it's all set in space, and you're taking over each other. You're building your own like alien empire and taking over planets in your region, and then eventually, after several hours of playing already, then you can start like then attacking each other with your aliens and trying to take over the entire galaxy. God, it's a long and involved game, but it can be quite fun. There's another one that just came to mind that I really enjoy as well, like because I love deck builders. I'm not a huge fan of worker placements, but I love deck builders and engine builders. Engine builders, I am terrible at. But because my engine will start to get going and somebody won, and I'm like, oh, well, I was about to start creating, full like chains of like, okay, because I've got this thing, I can now get 2 cards per turn, and then because I can draw every time I draw a card, I get a coin, and every time I get a coin, now I can finally pay for the things that I'm wanting. So I'm like, I've got all this in my mind. I'm like, this is gonna be a perfect way to win. Oh, no, he's already finished. Okay, great. But I still enjoy them. But there's a game. What's it called? The something of Qualish. The alchemists of Qualish. The potion makers of Qualish.
Is it Quacks of Quedlinburg?
Quacks of Quedlinburg or something. Is that the one?
Yeah,
is it basically a big spiral cauldron on your playmat? Yeah, I love that one because you've got ingredients for a potion, and you start out with the simple ingredients, and they're in a little baggie. and you draw out your tiles one at a time, and then you put them on the potion, and the order that they come out in, it gives you different points, and then at the end of each round you can buy a new potion to add to the pack, so you can kind of like start to grow which ones are more likely to be coming out. And I love that game. That's a lot of fun.
Oh, good. That's good, because I've been looking at that one for a while, but I didn't know anyone who'd played it. So now it's on the list.
Yeah, I really enjoy that one. It's a lot of fun, and it's really replayable as well. Like that's one of the things that I look for in a board game is like how replayable is it? Like, is it going to be the same? Because there was a game I really enjoyed called Assassin Party, Cosplay Party, Costume Party. Something like that. Basically, it's like a simple room of a house. There's like 5 rooms on a house, and a bunch of little meeples all dressed in different costumes. And you draw a card. There's a deck of cards that is all the different costumes. And you draw a card, and you've got the astronaut, and that's your character. And then you draw another card, and you've got the cowboy, and that's your target. And you have to get into the same room as the cowboy, and then you announce as an action on your turn or whatever. You can announce, this person's dead. And then everybody else knows, you must be one of the other people in that room, and so they have to try and kill you before you because then you draw another card, and if you've now got the ballerina, and you're like, okay, now I've got to go kill a ballerina, and you've got to move around, and that's a lot of fun, like social deduction kind of subterfuge kind of game, but it's not replayable. Like I've got some friends at the board game cafe that are always like, should we play Assassin Costume Party or whatever it is? I'm like, I've played it like 3 times, and it's the same each time, and there's not a lot of replayability to it. You can get more replayability by like getting into the roleplay of it, but it's hard to roleplay your guy at the costume party without giving away who you are. Because I suddenly start talking like this. They're like, okay, he's not the astronaut. So I look for replayability, and the Quacks of Quedlinburg or whatever it is very replayable because of the random nature of like bringing out stuff out of your bag and like deciding on a different strategy this time. Like if I heavily invest in this particular ingredient, I'm going to get more of it coming out of the bag, and blah blah blah. Lots of fun. I could talk about board games all day. I think I should just come to LA and just join you at the studio.
Yes.
We'll just play board
Yes,
games.
please.
Let's do that.
Do it.
All right, let's start to wrap this up because we're pretty much at time, and we're both busy folk. So, where can people find you, Cucumber?
People can find me individually at Cucumber Lives on Instagram, Twitter. I think on Twitch I'm Cucumber Official. Not that I stream from there or anything, but that's my account if you want to be my friend. Otherwise, I can always be found at Perception Studio, and as mentioned earlier, it's at Percept Studio on Instagram and everywhere that isn't here. And also, all of our like backlog stuff can be found on YouTube, also at Perception Studio. And we do have some exclusive stuff on our Patreon. We do pre-records and release them episodically on there as well.
Nice.
Access that, I think, at tier 2 or something. I don't know. But yeah, but basically, Perception Studio everywhere, and then I'm usually there.
And does your manager have any socials or anything, or anywhere people can
he
follow?
does. Yeah, he is at DMontooth everywhere, so it's DMONTOOTH.
There you go.
Except for Twitter. Whatever it's called anymore. He's not on there anyway, who cares?
Yeah, who gives a shit? That cesspool's falling apart. And if you are here from Perception Studio audience and this is your introduction to me, I am Robert Hartley, GM. I'm a full-time Dungeons & Dragons content creator all over the internet. I'm most well known for being the Dungeon Master for a comedy group called Viva La Dirt League. You can find our actual play over on Viva La Dirt League D&D on YouTube. It's half-hour episodes. There's a bunch of recaps coming out at the moment to try and get you into the campaign without having to commit to 80 hours of content watching. But you should also do that because it's a lot of fun. You should watch the whole thing. You can find me and everything that I do at Robert Hartley GM, or you can find my Short Rest series with all of the other people that I've chatted with on YouTube as well under the Short Rest playlist. Thanks for being here, everybody. As we wrap up this Short Rest, is there anyone you'd like to raid on Twitch? I always like to give it to my guests to make the decision.
Gosh, I don't know who's on. You see, my thumbs don't work. Who's up?
We got GM Workshop, we got One Shot Questers, we got Table Story.
Ooh, how about DJ Knight? We got to interview him, or he interviewed us. I don't remember anymore at TwitchCon forever ago, and he's delightful. DEEJAY Knight, KNIGHT.
With a K, yes. KNI.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, we will raid DJ Knight. Thank you for the suggestion. And I guess our short rest is at a conclusion. We've rolled our hit dice. We've finished drinking our delightful apple ciders. And we got to get back to the real world of socializing with people. Hopefully, hopefully we've recharged some social batteries. I'll let you go and sleep off your Thanksgiving food coma.
Okay.
Thanks for joining me, Cucumber.
Thanks for having me, everybody. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Did you know that a number of my videos are also available as a podcast? Check out the links in the description below.